Good evening, everyone. This is the Dundee Township Cemetery Trustees regular meeting scheduled for January 12th, 2021 at 6 p.m. I am now going to read the electronic recording meeting wording. This meeting of the Dundee Township Cemetery Board will be held via audio and video conference call in accordance with the Illinois Governor's executive orders and disaster declarations regarding COVID-19 pandemic. The general public had the opportunity to receive access to the meeting by making a request to the Township Clerk, Supervisor, or reviewing it on the Township website. Senate Bill 2135, signed into law by Governor Pritzker, addresses electronic meetings during time periods when the governor of the state of Illinois has issued a disaster declaration. Pursuant to this law, the Dundee Township Cemetery Board meeting will be conducted by video and audio conference without a physically present quorum of the board. Pursuant to this new law, Dundee Township Supervisor Patricia Trish Glees, myself, has determined that an in-person meeting at the Township building with participants is not practical, nor is it prudent because of this disaster declaration related to COVID-19 and the public health concerns affecting the Township. The Township officials or appointed board members will not be physically present at the Township building. This meeting is being video recorded and will be made available to the public via the Dundee Township website as provided by law, and all votes will be by roll call. The meeting will be in place by Friday of this week. Thank you very much. I now call this meeting to order. Bob, would you give us a roll call, please?
Okay, physically present, I believe it's only myself. Attending remotely, Supervisor Glees.
Present.
Trustee Gullickson.
Present.
Trustee Bartelt.
Present.
Trustee Bernardi.
Present.
And Cemetery Manager Rakow.
Here.
Okay. We do have one person that came in into the public. I'm going to ask that one person I'm going to ask you to unmute, and should you want to make a comment to the board, you can. If you do not, it's nice to see you. Go ahead, Mr. Eric.
Eric Salas, Dundee Township Cemetery employee.
Do you have a comment for the board, or are you just along for the ride?
Just tuning in.
Excellent. Thank you very much, sir. Go ahead and mute yourself so we don't have any more crosstalk. And there is nobody else. So open issues or old board.
Approval of minutes.
No, that's not on my agenda, sir.
Yes, it is,
yeah,
right
it is.
here. Yeah.
Okay. I am looking for a motion to approve minutes from October 13th, 2020 meeting. I need a first and a second.
So moved.
I
Ken.
have Trustee Gullickson first. Do I have a second?
Dave Bartelt, second.
I have Trustee.
Good, Dave.
I got Trustee Bartlett second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I will call the roll call. Bob, would you call the roll call, please?
Sure. Excuse me. Trustee Gullickson.
Yes.
Trustee Bartelt.
Yes.
Trustee Bernardi.
Yes.
Seeing 3 yeses, the minutes have been approved. Okay. Now on to open issues or old business, the Columbariat update and overall project. Which one of you wonderful gentlemen to the right or left of me would like to do that?
I'll give you what I have just very briefly. For 2020, we had one ossuarium sale for the future. and 3 niche sales.
And if I'm not
Oh.
mistaken, you did decorate it for Christmas?
No.
Okay, I am mistaken then. And Bob, you have a perfect picture of the columbarium in the background.
Yes.
Thank you. Board, do you have any questions about the columbarium?
I don't.
No.
My only comment is, is just that Mark and I have to, and Bob have to sit down and the board's input would be great on some more marketing material or how to really market, the columbarium and its sales. So we can start, you guys can all have conversations amongst yourself. But just letting you know, that's one thing is, marketing.
I mean, it's sad that the sales are so
When we,
weak, but
when we,
Go ahead, Leo. Was that Leo or was that Ken?
go ahead.
I think it was Ken.
Okay, Ken, did you have a comment?
This is Ken. When we started the columbarium project, I don't remember what the projected, if we had projected sales goals, or possible sales of niches in the columbarium. Were there any numbers that were put forth at that time? I don't recall it.
Well,
I know it's highly dependent on how many people pass away and, how many are cremated and all that. But for cemeteries that have had these structures built in their cemeteries, do they have any numbers, or is it become more popular, or do we have any way to talk to them about anybody that has these? I know there's one down towards St. Charles, right?
And there is one in St. Charles Township.
right.
And have they found, or have they had success in doing marketing towards promoting the use of the garden and the columbariums that they have now? Or is it just sort of oh, you have that, or I don't.
The last time that we had talked to them, which has got to be about 2 years ago, they were running into kind of the same problem that we are now. When they opened their garden, they priced their niches at a very premium price. So they had a stiff, I want to say, reluctance on buying. I think their niches were originally priced somewhere over $3,000 per niche. And I think the trend is certainly there in terms of the number of cremations that are occurring. I think we still have some discussions perhaps on the fact of maybe not allowing as many cremations to be placed on top of an existing vault, or maybe some other things that we could fine tune in the rules.
yeah, a lot of our, go ahead.
Mark, how
Yes.
many cremains have we just put in the ground?
Last year we had 49, and we had 3 in the columbarium.
Okay, that's a good number, but probably
and those-
most of those.
Yeah, and a lot of these
Those-
cremains, a lot of the 49, a lot of those went into existing graves, like with a spouse, a relative, and that primarily is probably a financial situation where the family has a plot, and we
Right.
allow 1 full-size burial and 2 cremains in a full-size grave. Most in
Okay.
9 out of 10 cases, I mean, we have just one and one, a full-size and a cremation. There's a lot of, families, husband and wives, that one is cremated and one is a full-size burial. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah, our numbers, I mean, since I've taken over, I mean, have been pretty consistent. This year we're running 63% full-size burial, 32% cremations, total of 35 with the columbarium. Last year we're at about 38% cremations and 58% full-size burials. So we're still hanging around that. I mean, it's always been like the 60-40. And our cremations have not taken off like I think maybe they were projected at the time when this columbarium was started, the procedure. So
Have we sold any new lots for, and then the people, after they purchased the new lot, did they put cremains in there? You know what I
you're
mean?
talking about in the new section?
In anywhere. When somebody buys a lot, do they put cremains in there? Or when they buy
sure.
a lot now, most of them have full burials?
Well, if they buy a full-size lot, the intent is a full-size burial. We did have one sale last summer where somebody bought a full-size lot with the intention of 3 cremains, a husband, wife, and a son.
Okay,
But,
okay.
And I think the other thing, just to wrap it up, when we started out on the project, we thought the economics were strong to put people into the looking at the columbaria because you had $1,850 as the price versus buying a cremation lot for $450, the service, and then putting the headstone on the grave, which put it up at around $3,000. So we thought the price point was good for the columbaria. But I think what we're seeing is that a lot of these, as Mark said, are still going in existing graves. And the economics are not there to push them towards considering the niche at this point.
Yeah, and some of the things I've experienced this summer with, as many burials that we've had, when we tell everybody about the columbarium, but it comes down to it, the columbarium is you have to pay for everything right now, the full $1,825 for a resident. So a lot of times they'll go for the cremation grave, which is only $500. So they only have to come up with that plus the burial fee of $450. So they have a $950 out of pocket today versus $1,825. So I think I just, from what I've seen this year, the many times that we've had an opportunity to sell a niche and we end up going back in the ground, I think it's just economics.
Which is something we may want to, review is, we are still relatively lower in fees than our surrounding, than the surrounding cemeteries. Definitely lower in fees than the columbarium is still at in St. Charles Township. So it does become a question of, and I do believe that we do have a little bit of a cultural
Audio just froze up.
understanding. I'm sorry?
Said my audio just froze up.
Oh, sorry. And then we do have a cultural understanding of the columbarium too. So, like I said, I think if we start looking at, maybe just getting together to come up with some marketing strategies. Okay. Any other comments on the update from the columbarium?
Nope.
Is there a reason for the having to pay for the entire that $1,850 cost up front, basically, as opposed to regular burial site and they can delay or I didn't understand exactly why can it be in, why not have that same policy in both where, you know, it's tipping the scales definitely towards the full grave site.
Well, if there's, I mean, I don't know if it's a law, it's been our rule. I mean, all the burials have to be paid for in full before you start. So it's kind of hard to, unless we did something where I don't know how you would price it. So if there's an immediate interment in the columbarium, I guess you could take a partial payment and can't bury the second one until you get full payment. That's the only difference. I do have one customer. I started this probably about a year ago, taking payments on future graves, and I did get one of our pending sales. It's not recorded as a sale because she only made payments for a couple months. I got a lady that is making payments for 2 years. That's her plan on a future columbarium. No one is sick or it's just a total future purchase.
And
if somebody
again,
passes and gets buried tomorrow, I mean, our rules are payment in full. There's no way to split it up.
and again, Ken, the big difference is what Mark was referring to is with the in-ground, you're only paying for the lot and the burial service. You can add the headstone later. And since the quote headstone is included in the price of the niche,
Columbarium,
in
yeah.
the columbaria, that's where the difference comes up. Is you don't have to put a headstone in.
And Mark, don't we have a couple people who have purchased niches and there's nothing in them?
Yes,
And they at that time they paid full price, correct?
it paid the full price, and the niche cover is engraved with their names. Obviously, no dates at this time.
Right. Well, I think it's something that we could think about. You know, the one thing, you know,
You can't really give them. You can't Bob. We issue deeds, which is just the interment rights. It's not the physical. They don't own the property, but we wouldn't be able to issue a deed. You're taking a chance you never get the rest of your money too.
right.
And then you give them a piece of paper that says that they have the rights to a niche with 2 spaces, and that could become an issue.
It also becomes a financial liability because, you know, the township, in particular, the cemetery isn't set up to accept payment plans. I mean, it does take a lot of record keeping on that end, you know, so. if
Well,
somebody-
I have started it. I mean, I created my own system. I don't have a professional system, but
Right,
but
we
it's
don't,
working.
right, exactly. But if somebody gets halfway through the payments and stops payments and then passes on and their family goes, oh, we have this deed, and they can't come up with the rest of the money, what do we do?
Yeah, no one has a
Well,
deed
what
to
would you
put
do
anything
with
that isn't
with
paid
the
in full.
plot?
Well, generally the plots are already purchased. It's just we haven't charged them to dig the grave and put the.
Yeah, even on a full-size lot, Ken, maybe what you were gonna ask is, I mean, if I'm taking payments, they don't get a deed until we have our final dollar. So that's the way that works.
But final
do we have
dollar
a
is
deed?
into,
Do we have a deed system for the niches in the columbarium?
Yes. Very similar to a full-size grave, just the language is different.
so what do you mean by final dollar?
Well, I mean, until it's paid in full. I mean, they don't get a deed for even their, nobody gets a deed for the grave. And the ones I'm taking payments on, until we get their final payment, they don't get it. I don't do a deed order.
Right, but you're just talking about the plot that
The
they
plot,
could be
yes.
buried in. Okay,
Yes.
and how much is
Yeah.
that right now for,
A plot,
yes,
$825 for a township resident.
why don't we do the same thing on the niche? If they're not putting anyone in at that moment, and we're trying to sell it, why aren't we selling it at like the same price?
Oh, sell it as a and then get the interment fees later?
Yes. Because I think it's the problem right now is, in one situation, we're breaking it up into pieces, sort of an a la carte. Buy the plot now, pay for putting something in later. Or we're looking at the columbarium and we're going to say, well, you need to buy everything right up front. We already have a process for splitting it up. Why not continue that?
I wasn't part of the columbarium when it started, so maybe Bob, maybe you can answer why they opted for the baggage. Maybe it was never discussed. I don't know.
Well, it was just, I guess it was recommended, and it just thought it was a cleaner process if we were putting the package together to include the engraving and all of that, to just put all of that, in a single package. And the other thing is it was to standardize it, whether it was, one grave or two. I guess we could look at, we'd have to price the niches at, because if somebody bought a niche and then they only put one one urn in there, you'd be getting less revenue than somebody that put two urns in there, because you only have the single opening cost. And so that would change the economics of the pricing.
But isn't that the same thing if you only put, you're only paying for a plot? You pay for the plot and then you only pay each time you have to open it to put a casket in or an urn in.
Well, true, but I mean, the economics of that are based on one full-size burial per plot, which is the normal expectation. If somebody comes back and puts cremains on top, that's kind of a bonus, if you will. Where if we're selling the niches, I mean, I'm open to look at it. It's just that we probably would have to raise the initial value of the niche, because at the end of it, we've got to pay for the cost of the structure. So I can take a look at that. We can hold off on when we get to the price list review, we can hold off on that until the April meeting, and I can work up some alternatives on the niche pricing.
Yeah, I never thought of it, honestly. So we could discuss that and see what we can come up with, if it would be practical. I honestly don't think it's a finance. Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, as again, when I was explaining to the people that you can actually save money by buying the columbarium, that is most of the time has been a positive. That it's a no-brainer. Let's go for that. But I say there are situations where people don't have the money and they just buy that cremation grave and then the opening fee, and then the other half of what they would have spent on a columbarium they can do in the future. But they understand it's going to cost them more in the end. But I don't know. That's something we could review.
Okay,
Good.
Okay.
good discussion. All right, let's move on to item B, burial and lot sales update. Back to you, Mark.
Bob might have. I mean, I have my my annual report, which is coming up. I don't know, under my business, I guess.
Yeah.
But Bob usually has some numbers. Do you have anything, Bob, on the?
No, I just stayed with yours. They look good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Um,
I guess we could talk about. I just throw mine in the annual report, as you guys I think got with your email, the graph and the burials for the year. 153 burials. 96 full size, 49 cremations, 5 infants, and 3 columbarium interments. Last year, I think I don't know what I gave. Well, I gave you that bar graph just showing you the last 20 years, actually 21. Last year we had a total of 112 burials. This year, 153. obviously a significant increase. One of our biggest years in 20 years.
That's what it looked like.
Do you think that's COVID related?
A lot of it, yes. It was just a very unusual summer. There was absolutely no downtime. It was a wild fall, probably from August through today.
And the other thing I can add is that in looking at the number of deeds over the past several years, we've been averaging somewhere around 60 to 65 deeds for the sale of plots. And this year we're over 100. So a significant increase in the sale of graves.
Yeah, we did have two. We've discussed it. Our staff has discussed the activity we've had. I don't know if some of it might be this the first round of stimulus money that came up this summer, that people bought graves for future. I think that might have been a little bit of it. I don't know the second round if that's going to have any impact, but we've got a lot of grave purchases that did not include an immediate death right now this last summer and fall.
Yeah, they were pre-purchased, right?
Yeah, just for future. So that's a little different than the past.
As a gut feeling, are we forecasting about the same for this year?
The way it's starting, yes, we've already got 11 burials this month.
Yeah,
And we're only not even
we're on the
halfway
12th
through.
day.
So
Yeah.
I think we're off to possibly another busy year like last year.
An update on the memorial tree and bench requests?
Just very briefly, we did have the one customer who wanted to plant the tree. We incorporated that with our tree planting this fall. The bench requests were turned over to, they're working with Jim Warner from Warner Monuments. He met with two different families about suggestions on his part, and I never heard from him again. So any bench requests are on hold or not active right now.
Okay. Okay. How about status on the report on the incident with the car hitting the markers?
Right now, we've replaced one flat marker, which was an older military marker that was replaced with a new one. There were repairs done to two small stones, and the large ones, they were going to possibly pull them this fall and resurface them and re-letter them. Nothing has to be completely replaced. They can all be repaired. Total damage was around $10,000 to the stones and our bushes. And when I talked to the insurance company last, I sent her some estimates, and she said that she couldn't do anything. They only make one payment. So until everything is complete, we won't get any reimbursement. So until I get the actual bill for the repairs and we replaced, I don't know if they're going to want actual invoices. I based everything on estimates so far, proposals, and they seem they're very cooperative to work with. They just said that when I get everything, send them one bill and they will send us a check.
Yeah.
Have you had any other additional difficulties getting hold of the families of the markers that were damaged?
One family that probably that had the most damage to the stone, that is going to be the biggest repair. I've had no contact with any people. That last burial was over 40 years ago. And everything, we set everything back up in place. So if you ever drove by, or the families that I know have been out there, you wouldn't even know that anything happened right now, unless you looked at the foundations that some of they had concrete borders that were broken away. But everything is back in place, and you wouldn't know anything had happened except for the row of bushes that is pretty much depleted. And I had a family call last week and inquire about a statue, which was I guess I'd call it a vintage concrete statue. I don't know how they're going to find one to replace it, but they wanted to know what to do. And I said, go get one, give us the bill, and you'll be reimbursed. Everybody's been understanding. Nobody was emotionally upset from this, and they're all working with us, so. That is all I have on that, unless you have any more questions.
Okay.
The berm in the lake issues.
Hopefully keep this brief. This has been on the agenda for months, well, maybe a couple of years now. We're at the stage of the berm where we can go as far as we can go. But the only thing we can do right now is make it taller. We have to probably get some engineering involved if we're going to continue to go straight along our property line. We're going to start getting into the lake, the swamp, the pond, whatever you want to call it. That was the only thing that I was cautioned on with the engineer, our engineer, who's also the village engineer, that we cannot impede the natural flow of water. So if we're going to continue to go through there, we're going to need some engineering and some guidance I need some professional help. It's not a crisis right now, but in the future, as I've said for the last year, I'd like to come up with a plan, because there never has been a plan for this berm.
Is any engineering services, are they available through the township, or is that a private entity that we have to hire, or?
No,
Yeah.
we have somebody, we've
hire a
retained,
third party.
yeah, we hire a third party. I mean, they're not on a retainer on our behalf, but they've done all the engineering for all of our capital projects, columbarium, parking lot. He's the one that gave me advice on the lake, that he suggested that we don't remove it because it acts as a filter before it spills into the prairie. We had a brief discussion at one of our meetings in the last year or two about there's a large low area in the prairie, which would be a natural thing for us to fill. But the more I think about that, we raise that up. That's where the water goes right now. We're eventually going to start pushing. Yeah, it's got to go somewhere. And if we start filling up that hole, that kind of scraps that idea. So we can go around the lake. If we go around the lake, the reason why we kind of did with a very small pile or height, we're only about 6 feet tall. That was started a couple of years ago. And then we stopped because Sue Harney, who was supervisor at the time, she wanted to incorporate that lake into the columbarium project so they could visually make it a visual enhancement to the whole project. And that's why we stopped when we did. And so this has been going, Trish has been here now for 3 years, going on 4. So it's time we come up with a plan. Or the only other suggestion that I have is we stockpile, and every couple of years we haul it out. So we can,
Yeah, we would truck the dirt back out again
yeah.
and start
Right
over.
now, the berm we have right now is really working out great. I mean, it's drivable, it's safe, it's got plenty of width, plenty of stability, and we can start tapering down, towards our property. Obviously, we can't go towards the Palumbo property, but we could dump dirt for a long time, but there still is not a long-range answer.
Great.
So even with the additional burials that we've had this year and potential for
Another crazy year.
strong year of burial requirements coming up here, we aren't running into any shortage of places to put dirt.
No, it obviously, with the 40 some odd increase in burials this year, it definitely put us closer to becoming an issue. But like I say, we can still let it start spilling down towards our property. The only problem that we haven't resolved also, which is coming up on the agenda, or one of my suggestions here, is we never we had that idea of the fence of a 100-foot fence behind our dirt building and to hide this berm while we're constructing this berm. It's still it's visually is a nothing nice to look at.
It's an eyesore.
And that's going to continue until it's done. And if we're going to make this thing tapered to where it's mowable, we're still talking about, a few years. And I think that we should, if there's going to be any money next year, if it gets re-put back in for a capital project, we were talking about $5,000 for a 8-foot tall cedar fence that would still help some of our comments that have come from the columbarium project, I guess.
So we have had negative comments from potential customers or potential families.
Most of it was probably not this summer, probably the year before, and that might have been, that's when you could see all of the, they had trailers and campers parked in the Palumbo property, which was, not good to look at. There was an incident I think you guys were aware of. Somebody apparently came outside half dressed or something out of one of the trailers. But that's all been moved. They keep reconfiguring what's parked back there. It goes from rental cars to semis to campers. I think we're back to semis, I think now, which we don't have that. We don't have as much activity back there as what we did before. And the berm has gotten much bigger, much taller, and much and longer. So we don't see a whole lot of the Palumbo issue. Now we just have the berm itself to look at with the weeds and stuff. But this year, I'll honestly say I've not had anybody complain about the appearance out there this year.
So with the increase in berm size and length, height and length, it's pretty much, sounds like it's pretty much negated a need for a visual barrier like the fence. Do we gain anything by pursuing that?
Well, I don't think it would is, I mean, we have we still have, it's still a haul road that we drive through, and like I say, other than just the visual appearance of the berm, which right now you can't do anything with that berm unless we're going to start tapering it, and that might be one of the solutions. Don't go any closer to the lake. Start tapering it down, towards the columbarium property, I guess you'd call it, and then maybe and then eventually make it mowable. And if we could make it mowable, we wouldn't be talking about this.
Or with native plants type
Yeah,
thing?
something.
That,
Been
yeah,
a lot of things thrown out. We just have never finalized it. Again, I think we need some professional advice.
yeah. Our open space foreman has said with the way the dirt is, the best we could expect would be something like a native wheat or oat grass to grow. And that becomes patchy. So you'd have like bald spots. So I mean, it is, we could try it this spring and blanket it, and then seed it and see what happens. But then once you blanket and seed it, you really can't drive over it.
There's nothing to even blanket or seed right now. It's too steep.
Well, you would hand do it. You would hand blanket it and then hand seed it.
But then you got to maintain it. I mean, how do you, if it's too steep,
Yeah.
That's
it
the
becomes a
problem,
real challenge to maintain.
right? It would be interesting to burn it.
This is almost like a vertical wall right now until we start tapering.
Okay. Well, let's keep this on the agenda so that it stays kind of present in our mind. Moving on to new business, COVID-19 issues and procedural updates with funerals. Mark, do you want to tell them what our procedures are?
We had a restriction all summer as far as number of people at a burial site. It started out with the first tier of in I guess late spring, early summer, where we had 10 people at a funeral. Then they backed off this summer. We went up to 50. Then we went back to 10. We've had a couple of funerals in the last several weeks that have become an issue more with the funeral directors than it has with the families as far as the numbers. So the change I made last week is that until further notice, we lead the funeral in. We turn the funeral over to the funeral director. We leave and we come back and we fill the grave when everyone is gone. The problem we're having is we tell people you can only have 10 people at the grave site, which they're cooperative. And when they get the funeral director waving to people to come on in closer, and it got to a point where we lost, I don't want to say we lost control. With the severity of this, with all the, you see the numbers go up and obviously the deaths that we see, I made the decision to just keep our people away. And so far it's going very well. We've had probably 6 or 7 funerals since we did this in a week, and we sent a letter out to all the funeral directors, talked to a couple verbally, and no one has any problem with it, and it's safer for us.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do until this thing is under control.
So yeah, so the letter, Mark signed the letter and I signed the letter. It went under my banner, and as Mark said, I have not had any responses back from any of the funeral directors, and really it's the safety of our staff. I mean, we're providing all of the personal protection equipment, the masks, the face shields, the gloves. But even for the times during the spring and the summer when I was there, it's not worth it. If we had, think about it, it's really the cemetery has got 3 people there full time, and then our utility worker swings between the summer and the winter. We'd shut, if any one of our employees at the cemetery got COVID, we would shut the cemetery down. And that's just it's not a department that has a whole lot of cross training. If you got there's not a lot where I can pick somebody else. I mean, we've attempted to do some cross training, but we would end up shutting down for potentially up to 14 to 21 days. So, okay. Any questions or comments on the COVID-19 procedural changes or updates? Okay.
Nope.
All right, declaration issues and policy revisions.
Just very briefly, I don't have the language, but it was, I think the last meeting we talked about, we have an issue with crosses and shepherd's hooks. And all I'd like to do is just with your approval is very simply crosses and shepherd's hooks. What's happening is people are modifying crosses. They're getting very elaborate where they're putting on end caps on the cross with solar lights on the top, plant hangers incorporated on a cross, hooks that are screwed into wooden crosses. And we're getting a cross that has, 6 or 8 different decorations adhered to it. So I very simply, and we have verbally told people that effective January 1st, there's no modifications to crosses, and shepherd's hooks. The same thing is happening. We've got some very creative customers with welding capabilities, and they're adding extra arms to a shepherd's hook. So we have 6 or more plants to a shepherd's hook with a welded cross with a solar light on the top of the shepherd's hook. Now we're getting, over 6 feet tall. Our rules call for 5 feet. So what I'm simply asking is that we be allowed to change our, just clarify, put a little more detail in the policy on shepherd's hooks and crosses, no modifications. And I think, the people that we've even told that to, most of them have been very receptive. And Eric has
You haven't
been,
gotten any backlash from suggesting that they are saying, look, we gotta pare this down a little bit here.
Right.
And
Well, what's happening, and we explain to them, and the people understand. And Eric has been doing a great job with, a lot of our Hispanic customers. They see something and everybody tries to improve it to make it a little bit better. So we get a cross that has just somebody incorporated a solar light on the top. Then we get the next guy that he puts one on the top, and then like a solar fixture on each end of the cross. And they're getting very creative, and I'm not saying they try to outdo each other, but that's pretty much what's happening. And they seem to understand when we explain to them why we're doing it, and hasn't been a whole lot. We know we're going to have a couple problem families that have kept up with multiple decorations all winter, but this spring it's going to be a little different.
Yeah,
We're
and
hoping.
if anybody drives by the cemetery at night, you'll see how.
It's very colorful.
Yeah.
It's very
How
light
it
at night.
lights up. Yeah. Okay.
So that's all I'm asking for is just we're not rewriting the policy. We're just adding a couple words to our Ross and Shepherd's hooks, and we're going to strictly enforce it the best we can.
If I can make, am I allowed to make a comment regarding this
Trish.
topic?
Sure. Go ahead and make a comment.
Yeah, I guess with this being implemented, the fact that you guys might get more complaints, just to either we'll bring it up to Trish if it's like against our power. Simply, we're gonna get a lot of questions of why are we doing this all of a sudden, and we tell them that it's getting out of hand, and it really is. Like the case where I have to tell one lady that we took out her third decoration because they're only allowed 2. And the grave, a few feet from her has almost 7, but the fact that they're altered to be on her cross and her hook, she asked me, why can she have 7 and I can only have these 2? Well, because that loophole, I guess, is there. She technically she only has 2 because it's part of her shepherd's hook. So there's going to be a lot of recourse for that. And we I don't know if Mark iterated that this year, earlier last year actually, we gave out like not citations but notices that this rule change was going to happen, and just to feel things out, and a lot of them did agree with them, so they know, just to reduce the amount of, I guess, people who might try to sue, which have some people that said that that they might follow that kind of action.
Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah, they threaten, nicely threaten us, I guess, but we don't react to that. So
Right. And we do not throw out there, if we take something off the grave other than live flowers, we don't throw it out. We put it by the shed where they can then pick up their stuff. We're just going to stop them from.
And some people pick up their stuff and put it right back, and then we go out and get it as soon as we can. They don't realize, I mean, we're maintaining almost 40 acres out there and 11,000 burials, and there's a lot of decorations. And it's really getting very difficult for 3 or 4 of us to do this, but.
Well, it also impedes the maintenance, the whether it's the mowing or the trimming. To
Right.
keep
Trimming is the biggest issue because the stuff ran on the ground. The only other thing we're going to kind of work on too is flower pots. We've allowed people to put pots on top of their stone, which doesn't affect the trimming, but then that goes from 1 pot to 2 pot to 3 pots. Don used to call them. Don was a prior manager for the guys that weren't here. Fresh flowers, if it wasn't planted in the ground. Well, those aren't fresh flowers. Those are pots of plants, and it's a decoration. So it's a challenge, but hopefully we can get some of this cleaned up this year. And you'll hear about it again. It won't ever go away, I don't think.
Right. Yeah, this will be on here for a while. Okay. Review and approval of used equipment sale.
All right, we have 4 things that I've talked about some of these a couple times. We've never officially declared them surplus. The four items that I'd like to dispose of or sell or whatever this year, we have our 1993 or 4 Ford Ranger that's really been sitting there for over a year. We used to use it to run around the cemetery, but there's some issues with that. We didn't even really use it this last summer. We have an air compressor that we used to use in the wintertime before we had the grave burners to break up frost. That's been in our building for the last 10 years I've been there. It's been outside for 2. We need to dispose of it. We have a Cub Cadet mower, a rider mower. It's really a residential mower with a deck on it. When it was being used, we used it, Don used to use it to haul a tank sprayer around to spray weeds and the cracks in the roads and stuff. That's the only thing I know the thing was ever used for. And then we have an old 48-inch rider mower that's probably close to 20 years old that we used to use on the west side. Now as we've got everything with 60-inch mowers, it's really kind of it's useless. I mean, we haven't used it for about a year now. So I don't know what the procedure is. I talked to Bob briefly a couple months ago about how to get rid of these things. I think that I don't know if the cemetery board can authorize or declare these surplus, or if it has to go through the township board. But those 4 items, it's not going to be a big money maker, if anything. But I need the approval to declare them surplus, get them off our insurance, and get them to a new home. And I don't really know how that is going to work, but that's why it's on here.
Okay, so the cemetery board would declare surplus. And Bob, I know the truck has to go to a closed bid. I don't know if the rest of the equipment has to go to a closed bid. But then the bids would be open during the public meeting of the regular board.
Correct.
Does the 2 mowers and the compressor have to go to open bid also?
I'm just looking up here. What do you think the value is, Mark?
We don't know. The compressor is a 1973, I think.
So that's an antique.
That's an antique, yeah.
Sure.
Take it to the Antiques Roadshow.
Get more
Yeah.
like that.
And then the Cub Cadet, that's probably, that was there when I started 10 years ago. Everything is functional. Now we haven't had the compressor run. That's got it's either a 4 or 6-cylinder engine. I think it's a 6-cylinder motor that's in that thing. That hasn't been ran for several years, but the mower is usable and runs and has been maintained up until about a year ago. And same with the Cub Cadet. The Ford Ranger, being a 94, what's that, 26 years old? 27 years old. I mean,
That's the one with the clutch, right?
That's the one with the so they're not a whole lot of value for anything.
It's like scrap material to me.
Well, that's the compressor that was one of our options, was to take it apart and scrap it out. I talked to at one of the cemetery seminars or conventions I went to 2 years ago. They didn't really have an avenue for that, but they did start a Facebook equipment exchange thing for the people who belong to the Alliance of what's the name, AIC, our group. But I've looked at that a couple times and I've never seen anything advertised on it yet. So I don't think there's a whole lot of surplus equipment that people are looking for, unfortunately. And this is something that is, I don't want to call it a liability, but with its age and dependability, I don't think anybody could depend on it in our business to have it readily available in the winter when you need it, if you would need it. That was the purpose of us. I did ask the highway commissioner last year, the year before, if he had any interest. They had no interest in it.
And yeah, open space doesn't have,
No.
open space has moved to the larger 60.
Yeah, the pickup truck is it's not safe. It has absolutely zero safety features.
Yeah.
It's just, we don't even, I say it's still roadworthy. I wouldn't take it out on Route 25 and go any long distance, but we have been using it on our own property, but until this year.
I don't remember my governmental accounting, but I guess this has all been depreciated to zero, so it should be zero on our books.
Correct.
So we're just looking at a salvage value, and my guess is, the salvage value of -1,000. We may have to pay someone to take it.
The mower, I
quick
haven't
guess.
talked to anybody yet, but yeah, the mower could possibly have I know Don in the press, he traded in a couple of pieces of equipment, but it was just disgusting to see. I mean, you'd get 10 cents on the dollar, and I don't know what they turned around and sold it for, but I can't see trading in a 48-inch rider for a trimmer, but that's probably what you'd get for it. But maybe if that would be worth advertising. I mean, a landscape contractor. I mean, it works. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not for our purpose. It's too small and it's dated.
Well, there are regs that we'll have to check. There's supposed to be a rule in the book for property valued less than 2,500, but I go to that page and there's nothing there. So we'll have to check with Ansel Glick, but I'm sure that's correct that there is no formal procedure for something less than 2,500 in value.
Okay. Well, just so then the board can take action to declare it surplus, and then we can work on, if we get something great, if not.
Correct.
So, yep. So we would need you three gentlemen. I'll do a roll call in a second, and either yay or nay as to whether or not we can call this surplus, and then either sell it.
Is the motion going to be to call it surplus?
Yes, that
Yes.
is what the motion is going to be. Okay. And all right, so I'm going to be looking for a first and a second motion to refer to the four products: the 1994 Ford Ranger truck, the air compressor, the Cub Cadet mower, and the 48-inch rider mower surplus. And I'm looking for a first and a second.
So moved.
I have a first from Leo. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ken. I'll do a quick roll call while Bob is writing. Trustee Gullickson,
Aye.
Trustee Bartlett,
Aye.
and Trustee Bernardi.
Aye.
All right, that is now surface equipment. We will let you know at a later date of the disposal or the disposition. Okay. Moving on to possible revision of cemetery hours, and we are only talking about Saturdays.
Correct. This year, due to COVID, we have not staffed we used to be open on Saturdays from May 1st through October 31st. Saturdays only 9 to noon. Being on appointment only basis, which we're operating now and in the future, I don't really see any need for the Saturdays. As far as even when this COVID goes away. So I would like to, unless you guys have any comment or questions, I would like to eliminate Saturdays and just work on Saturdays appointment only. We have a rotating basis among the three of us right now. As far as funerals, we each take a Saturday, and obviously we have the opportunity to trade them if we don't need them, or if we don't have anything, or if we can't do it, I should say. so we can continue to work on that with the three of us and do Saturdays by appointment only if that's the only time a family can come in.
You
What
need a
type of
motion on
utilization?
that?
Oh,
Wait, I'm sorry, hang on just a minute. Leo, why don't you start and then I'll move to you, Dave.
Okay.
Looking 2 years ago, what type of utilization did we have on Saturdays?
As far as, I mean, we staffed it
People
every.
coming in for appointments or things like that.
Yeah, most people never just walked in. Most people don't just walk in to buy a grave. You know, obviously we did make arrangements, you know, for burials or a purchase on a Saturday because we were there. They would usually call on, you know, Friday to tell us they were coming anyway. So there's not a whole lot of walk-in traffic. And the days that we didn't have anybody either, you know, for a grave purchase, it would the only thing that we'd probably get walk-ins for is people needing help finding the location of a grave. And then we use Saturdays pretty much as that was our day for cleaning our office while we worked on every Saturday while it was always staffed. That was the biggest thing that we did on Saturdays.
So if we looked at, let's say, 2019 summer, you know, for all those, you know, let's say what, 12, 16 Saturdays, we had what, maybe 10 people step in?
Probably.
Okay.
Just walk up for either use the bathroom, like I say, the possibility of making an arrangement, but most of that is done through the funeral homes anyway. They call us and then they have the family call us to make an appointment. A lot of times, I mean, they'll call and just say, hey, I'm sending somebody over if we're available. But I think that COVID has changed a lot of things as far as the appointment only basis. And I think that we'll be fine without staffing every single Saturday just to have somebody there.
Okay.
And Dave, did you have a comment?
No, I was just gonna make a motion to go ahead and eliminate Saturdays.
Okay, I have a motion. And I do want to say, we do have a Ring doorbell. So if they, you know, I do believe Mark is the person that answers that doorbell remotely.
Yep.
But then, you know, so I have a motion to eliminate Saturday hours except for appointment. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ken. We'll go Trustee Dave,
Aye.
Leo,
Aye.
and Ken.
Aye.
Perfect. All right, we'll make those changes for Saturday. Which now plays, this next one does play into COVID, the need for rental bathrooms. Mark, I'll if you want, I'll take it. I think we would like to get, and it would have to be a handicap accessible, so it would be a larger porta potty. We use these in a couple of our open space properties. They get cleaned once a week. I would not expect our staff to clean them throughout the week. I mean, it would be just the one cleaning that we would get, but I do think we need to have a outside Johnny on the spot, for lack of a better term. I don't, what, it's called crown something, right, Bob?
Mhm. Yes, crown.
Yeah.
So are those only open for use during business hours, or are those
Our
open
bathrooms
24/7?
are, yeah. No, our bathrooms are only during hours, and since COVID, we haven't even allowed people to come in and use them. The only people that have used them is if we have somebody in there, you know, making arrangements. Obviously, people have asked to use the bathroom and we haven't told them no. But funerals, a lot of times, you know, people are there for an hour, hour and a half. And then we get, you know, families coming up, bringing children or whatever. We've never turned an older adult away that's, you know, come all the way up to the door and then tell them no. But even during COVID, but it's just, we've had a lot of, not a lot, but occasionally on a weekend when we're not there, we found remnants of people using the bushes over by the or by the mausoleum building. Toilet paper waste and
Right.
what goes with it in a bush, which is kind of disgusting, not kind of disgusting, very disgusting. And with COVID this year, and with not being there on those Saturdays for 3 hours, it was just a discussion. If you think a need is there, it would eliminate a lot of unnecessary mess for us to clean up, even in our own bathrooms, especially with COVID. But even in the future, just for customers that are attending the business and obviously employees, and then let them use a porta potty outside. Location of the porta potty, we very briefly talked about, where do we want this? We don't want this in the middle of nowhere, but see if we can get creative. We thought possibly in the at the end where the planters are by the columbarium, Bob and Trish, if you know where
Yep.
the road is continued to go through.
Yep.
We can maybe find a level area there that, I don't know whether we'd have to put a little type of privacy fence or something around it, just to make it a little more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, and we probably would have to lay down a cement pad, but that's pretty simple to do.
Yeah. All right. I mean, we don't want to just drop one off and make it look tacky. You want something that is functional for people that really need it, and that it looks halfway decent where we put it.
I
We
don't
don't
know
want
that
it. We
I've
don't
ever
want. We don't
seen
want it
a,
outside by the building.
I don't know that I've ever seen an accessible porta potty. I'm not sure. What,
Well,
I mean, a porta potty that would accommodate a wheelchair. I mean, I deal with wheelchairs all the time, and that's got to be one massive
They
porta
are.
potty.
They
yeah,
are.
they are.
I don't know. I don't know.
Were you talking about one, Tricia, you could physically wheel a wheelchair into?
No, what I was thinking, Ken, in what has been considered ADA in the for open space is, they have that real skinny single one. They have, it's not wheelchair accessible, like you wouldn't be able to get your wheelchair into it, but it has, it's wide enough where it has handrails. So like if you were in a walker or something, you'd be able to walk up to it, and it has the railings to hold on to.
I
So it's a little
haven't
bit
seen one
bigger.
of those before. I haven't seen one of those either, but
They have them over at Bonnie Dundee if you golf over there. And then I was thinking from an aesthetic pleasing type thing, we would put like a fence like you would at the golf courses, kind of that barrier.
Do you have to build a little ramp type thing then too for stepping into it?
No, it's actually it's level to the ground.
Oh, okay,
It maybe has a 2-inch lip or something like that.
okay.
But that's where you would put it, you would put it on a cement pad.
You know how much these things cost a month? Or what do you pay to service them, or?
It's about $120 every 28 days for the weekly service, sanitizing, and the rental.
So that's more than I thought, I guess.
I think it's reasonable. As I said, we do have them in open space, so I don't see it.
Yeah, we'll just have to talk more about where to put it.
Location.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really don't want it over by the columbaria. That just seems like the wrong place, but we can talk.
Yeah. And the only other place is, I mean, they don't want to increase the activity back by our building either. I mean, we have enough people that keep driving back
No,
there.
I know. We'll have to go take a look, but I mean, the general idea is good.
Yeah.
So at $128 a month, was that?
121 right now.
A month?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is
so
that
it's a little over
every-
$1,500 a year. Is that another line item on the budget, or does that get buried under miscellaneous or
Probably would be under maintenance of grounds
maintenance and
Yeah.
grounds?
because we have excess funds in there. So we could probably roll it into
So we
that.
have the capital to fund it, short of the concrete pad. And we can probably pour that ourselves, right? Or no?
Yeah, our guys have gotten good at doing concrete.
Yeah, we can. We can do anything.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I mean,
Yep.
the lay, materials, maybe, if we did the concrete and maybe a little fence, maybe anywhere between $500 and $1,000 would be the initial layout, depending upon where we put it.
Yeah, that's gonna be I don't have an
Does
answer
this
for
need
you.
a motion then to put this in motion?
It does.
Please to proceed with the project, and if we find out it's not viable, then we'll
Yeah,
let you know, but I guess just so we can,
Okay, I move that we
Pursue
proceed
it.
with the project and investigate possible locations and I guess bring it up at the next meeting then, right?
yes. Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have Dave Bartlett seconding it. I am going to call roll again. Ken,
Aye.
Leo,
All right.
and Dave.
I,
Yeah, great, thank you. All right. Review of the potential price increases. Bob or Mark, go ahead and take this away, because you know how I feel about it.
go ahead, Bob. I just asked Bob the other day, just that it was, being a new year, we haven't done anything, if there's any, just for discussion. I mean, if you guys think we should reconsider, as I told Bob the other day before he put this on the agenda, I don't have any facts. I'm waiting for some replies that are requested. I don't know where we really stand. I think that we're on the lower end. I don't want to get too pricey for our residents, but I just wanted to bring it up for a price review. But I
Okay.
do not have anything to compare it to.
All right.
I'll turn it over to Bob.
Okay. Basically, the big change on the sheet that I sent you is instead of, because we have run into some situations where especially a funeral home will go, oh, we'll go over to the cemetery and see Mark. The graves are 8 1/4. And it turns out they live in Lake in the Hills or they live in Schaumburg. And so they're not a resident and the price is really $1,650. So what I've suggested here is that we simply list our full price on the sheet with the notation that if you live in Dundee Township and pay taxes to Dundee Township, you receive a discount on the purchase of the graves. So then when they come, Mark can tell them the good news that no, they only owe us X and not what's on the sheet. What I've done is suggest bumping up the graves slightly, about $100 a piece. And then the services on average about $50 per interment service. I did not change the mausoleum pricing because we really don't have any of those on a routine basis.
Yeah, well, you just let me jump in that. I mean, if we're gonna either take it off the price sheet or I think it should be the same as a regular burial. That's what I think the intent was at one time. When I look at, this hasn't been updated for a couple price increases, but if we're gonna leave it, I would just mirror the regular grave interment prices.
Okay. I can certainly take that off.
How many more mausoleum slots are available?
There's nothing available, never has been since I've been there. Apparently they are, I say apparently, I've never done an audit to verify, but I think everything in there is sold.
So then I think we should just take mausoleum completely off the price sheet since you
I have
can't.
had people, I mean, we usually give a copy of our price sheet to some customers, and a few people have asked about the mausoleum, and I tell them that there's nothing available. So
Yeah.
it could really come off.
Yeah, because then we could just deal with it. There's, I think, maybe like 10 or 15 that are vacant that somebody has purchased in the past. They have the right to be interred there, which is really what this was talking about, is the opening charge.
Yeah,
But,
and
we can-
that, like I say, if it stays under, I think it should be the same as a regular price. I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
involved. I mean,
What
we
I'll
have
do is
had,
just say regular
go ahead.
grave / mausoleum space and leave it at
Yeah, we
one
can do that.
set of price.
So is this a published price list that gets handed out or passed
Yes.
out
Yes.
or?
And it's also on the township's website.
Right.
So shouldn't we add columbarium pricing?
I'm sorry, there's a separate
price
one.
sheet.
There's a separate price sheet for the
Oh,
columbarium.
okay. Okay. All right.
This is only for the ground purchases, so to speak.
Okay. Understood.
The only thing, Bob, that it wasn't included in mine, or I didn't print it, was the baby graves or
It was
infant
on,
graves.
on the second page. It was a two-sided.
See, I didn't get, I don't know what I did. Okay. Well, anyway, I didn't know, I don't know what you had for the baby graves, but
The sale price was 500, 250 for a resident, and then opening of 200.
what did you have?
500 for the purchase, 250 then for the resident, and then the opening at 200.
Okay, wait, I think the opening is a little, without getting open up a whole can of worms. When we say baby, we always think of, premature babies. We had one this year that was a 1 month old. We had to use the backhoe. It was a very large cherub / casket for a 1 month old baby. But this thing was like, 3 feet deep, 4 feet long. I realize, I mean, the grief that people are experiencing, losing a baby or a newborn or whatever, especially a child. But these prices, I mean, we jacked them up once, and I think our opening fees are a little bit.
You want to go to
little bit low.
300 or 350?
Bob, what's the cost of a regular opening for a regular grave?
Well, on this new price sheet, it'll be 750.
750. It was 700. I had under babies, I had $300 before 2 o'clock, 400 after 2, 600 after 3, and then Saturdays I had 450. They were 450, 550, and 800.
Okay. All right, I can do that.
Just a suggestion.
Sure, no, that's fine.
Because Mark, if it is a small, just like if it's a cremation, you dig that by hand, correct?
Typically, yes. If it's a normal, like a premature stillborn baby, as an example, I mean, it's a little tiny cherub. It's probably 3 times the size of a cremation urn, which we dig by hand. Anything larger than that, we have been using the backhoe with our small bucket. But yeah, I mean, when you charge somebody, $450 or $500 to open a cremation and $200 for an infant, it's a sad deal. It's all a sad deal, but
No, I agree.
Maybe we should change the baby to infant.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know people are probably not going to like my suggestion, but I think because I don't see a document that shows the comparison as to where we're at and where we're proposing in terms of prices. I think I'm going to move to table this. I think I need more information, but I do agree that the posted pricing should be at non-Dundee Township pricing that's displayed on the website. And we have
Yeah.
a note that says Dundee Township residents do receive a discount. But yeah, I right now just don't feel comfortable with numbers being thrown out. And we also have the question regarding the columbarium
Yeah.
in terms of pricing and stuff. I think we need to take this as a whole package.
Sure.
But that's
Yeah,
that's my suggestion right now.
Well, no problem, because as I put on here, that we wouldn't adopt this until the April meeting anyway. So it wasn't to really be adopted tonight anyway. So that's fine. We'll just
Then I'll have something to compare it to some actual figures
Yeah.
from other cemeteries. So
Yep.
That'd be perfect. I appreciate that.
okay, no problem.
okay. So yeah, so that'll show up in April and we'll have some definitive pricing for you. Discussion of future staffing plans. This is really, I'm going to sort of table this till April, but what we're, what we need to start thinking about is, our summer quote unquote temporary help. So I just like to have that, we'll have that conversation in April. I just want you guys to think about, Mark can tell you, this and everything. I know everything is COVID related, which I think we're still going to have. We're still going to be experiencing it with the amount of burials that we had through the spring, summer, and fall. It always seemed to me that not only Mark, but the rest of the staff was always under stress because they weren't able to get to the grass cutting, to the, it always seemed like there was a funeral that, was happening. So, I just want you guys to think about potentially maybe another, having summer help again, bringing on somebody just through that May through October timeframe, even if it's, if it's somebody who we, can't really mow, but can get around and be taught how to trim, but pick up the garbage, clean the garbage, make sure the water tanks are filled, that kind of thing. So just to think about that.
we'll have a better handle too what's going to happen in the next couple of months. So by the April meeting, we'll have some realistic projections, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. The next thing on here is our review and approval of the budget for fiscal year 2022 capital expenditures.
Nobody really has any figures yet, unless I haven't seen any new figures.
This will probably be a work in progress, and we'll have to kind of work around it. I've been playing with the numbers, and from what you have seen or what I sent out, year to date on revenue, we're at 450,000 roughly, with January and February to go. And our projected revenue was only 387,000. So we're running about, call it 60 364,000 minimum ahead of
Okay.
what we would be, my thought is, we don't want to spend everything that we get from this bonus year. But also our projected expenses right now are only about 282,000. So we're going to be somewhere in the, I think, 113 or so thousand excess revenue over expenses for this fiscal year. So with that in mind, my thought process or suggestion would be that well, let me back up. We also have in the capital reserve fund, roughly 55,000 that has been allocated for the repair of some of the roadways. So what I'd like to see is do a normal update on most of the expenses with a 1 or 2% increase in a lot of the commodities or other services. We would have to add some additional amount in the other professional services category to cover the restroom rental if we go with that. I had also added or thinking about adding about 2,500 in that category to be used for advertising or marketing expenses. And then the big changes would be getting down to, excuse me, 1 second. Getting down under capital, what I'd like to see is possibly taking the 55,000 from the capital reserve fund, add another 25 to it so that we've got 80,000 to put towards the repair of the roads. At least get a start on that. Then Mark has outlined the need for a Kubota replacement possibly. And I'm guessing if we can go with a little smaller RTV model, that's around 12 to 15,000. Say no, Mark.
I don't think we can really get anything less than what we have as far as size wise.
Okay.
The thing that we're running into where we found we're getting close is 17, section 17, as it's filling up, it's getting harder and harder to get a dump truck in there to dig a grave and to haul the dirt out. And with 2 Kubotas, which we use a lot of times in like old section 2 as an example, we can't get in there anymore either. But 17, we're starting to see where we're going to be unable to get in there. So I think as far as size wise, nothing smaller. I just did a little research as far as the Kubota. Give me a little bit of Kubota history here. The one that we're talking about, the possibility of replacement, is repairs are estimated right now at about probably $7,000 or maybe a little bit more. We don't know exactly what is wrong. We think the whole hydraulic system needs to be rebuilt. This fall, not that long ago, I guess the guys were out and they were in a dip, in like a grave that was sunken, and there wasn't enough power to even pull them out. They had to pull them out with the other Kubota. So hydraulically, it has no power left. The thing is about it, I think it's 2007. The thing's approaching, what's that, 14 years old, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And to put $7,000 or $8,000 into, I'm guesstimating the replacement is going to be around 16 If we get something similar to what we have right now, it would be another 900, or the new one is 1100. That was pretty much the same mechanical specs, except had the enclosed cab, and we got the plow and stuff, which we're not going to do that. The list price on the Kubota with a lot of the options is right at about 20. And if it comes in on bid like the last one did, that thing was about $8,000 or $9,000 less than the suggested retail when we bid the thing out. So I'm thinking if this one can come down to approximately 16, maybe even 15, we might get something like what we're replacing with, almost no frills at all. I mean, pretty basic. Heavy duty rear end, heavy duty front end, things like that.
And I really think if I think we should budget 20 or 22,000 for it. Because, well, first of all, it's a capital expense. I get that. But that's something that wouldn't have to be purchased or replaced for potentially 10 years. With good maintenance, and, Tony, I mean, the staff maintains these so that they outlive, many of the staff members. And I don't mean, that the staff members retire. I mean, we still have a 1994 Ford pickup. So, that would be, I really think 20 or 20.
The replacement would last a lot longer because that's all we had before. I mean, we ran the wheels off it literally, for the first 12, 13 years. And by having two, it's obviously going to take the wear and tear off of
Right.
Off of it. So I just can't see putting $7,000 or $8,000 into we probably
Well,
paid
it's an
10 for that.
important piece of
12.
equipment that we are using every day, and virtually every day. And if the thing breaks down or gets stuck because it doesn't have enough power to get out or whatever, that's it. To put a lot of money, which $6,000-8,000 into a machine that has met its life expectancy by all standards, I think that's foolish. That's not being fiscally responsible. And I think it's time that we get a different machine. And I don't think we should delay any longer than necessary. I think it's something that we need to move on, not necessarily at this meeting, but I think it needs to be moved on sooner rather than later, because if we do a bidding process, that takes time too. Right. And, we wait until the next meeting and then you do the bidding process, and that's going to be a month or more in all of that. And then it's a review of the bids, and then there's ordering the machine. It's going to be the middle of summer before we get a new machine.
Right.
And
Totally agree.
one thing that I would like to suggest that as soon as the township board approves the fiscal budget, if it's prior to our April meeting, I would like to have a public meeting, particularly even if it's just for this one piece of equipment, so that we're not waiting till June to go through the bidding process.
Right.
I would like, it would be an ad hoc meeting. I realize that's an extra meeting for you guys. But
what's your feeling on the big board as far as moving on the budget? Do you think it's going to be better than last year?
No.
No.
Okay.
That's why, right. It's not. That's why I don't want, I could see, I do not want to wait till June, potentially. Well, the budget has to be approved at the May meeting, and I don't want to go to that May meeting, have a final budget, and then we have to start our process. I would like to, as soon as we know we go into draft, which, wouldn't be many changes with the budget, we would start our process, because you're right, Ken. It could take after that 3 months, and now it's August.
Yeah, but we can't really move on it or even begin until the board approves the capital budget, because if they come back and strike everything in capital, then we've got commitments out there and we haven't got any
Yeah.
funds to buy it. So,
True, that's why I think we might have to have a ad hoc meeting to approve this after that final budget.
well, yeah, after the final budget,
Mhm.
but if it's in our capital plan, then we should be okay to move forward. But we need the final board of trustees, the big board approving the budget before we can do anything.
Right.
Well, can the cemetery board, from what am I hearing, could they make the recommendation without, or whether it be a recommendation or a motion to proceed with replacement instead of repair? Is that necessary? Would that help?
Well, I think what we're really going to do, I mean, it's getting where it sounds like we need to put some more thought into the budget. And what I'd like to see is maybe if we could do what Trish was speaking to, have a special meeting if it's agreeable with the three trustees, maybe next month or so, just to finalize your recommendation on the budget to go to the big board for the cemetery. But we need to get a few more details on, like, the capital project, maybe try to squeeze in, I don't know.
I got a couple other
estimate-
things here too that I want to discuss.
Estimate on the road, that sort of thing, so we can finalize it. I don't think we're ready to finalize tonight.
Right.
No. I was looking for guidance and direction to proceed.
Right. So, so I'm asking for, potentially a February meeting, just to go through the budget. It would not, potentially wouldn't be that long of a meeting. But I would like to have that because that is going to be key.
Mark, what guidance and direction are you looking for?
Just for recommendations from the board, I guess primarily that we consider replacement instead of repair. We know parts are almost $4,000, and we're guessing labor is going to be 3 to 4. Anthony's working on getting a quote. But.
Okay, and given the conversation sort of jumped all over the place. So right now, given how the cemeteries are laid out and how they've been growing, we've got problems moving the large dump truck in and out to move things around and all that. So we're looking to the Kubotas then to fill that aspect, correct?
Correct. In the situations where we can't get the truck in.
Got it. And the Kubota that we're wanting to replace is how old?
13 years. I think it's going on its 14th.
Okay. So I think my recommendation is one, because it's greater than 10 years, the depreciation value should be 0. So there might be, again, a salvage dollar amount that we might get.
Correct. Yes.
For getting rid of it. But yeah, I think given what's happened this last year and given what we are forecasting for this year, I think it's the pertinent time to go ahead and replace it, because we do need the something stronger. So let's put it that way. But
can any of those excess funds that we have be allocated towards that to offset
well,
the punch that it's going to give to the main board, the big board?
Well, we're going to certainly emphasize that, to them, that the cemetery has had the significant bump in revenue. We don't want to spend it all, but we feel we need to spend X in order to do improvements that are required. I know they're not going to give us, or want to give any additional money, but since we have the money in the bank, we should be able to sell that.
Do they have access to that money to take it for their purposes and extract it from ours?
No, it's in the cemetery fund. They realistically can't pull it out of there.
Right. But we do need their we do need their approval,
Well, yeah, yeah.
you know,
Well, what do you need from us then right now to get the ball rolling?
I just need to know that, you know, if we call a February meeting, you know, you guys are okay with it.
Yes, well, I am.
That's,
I
yeah,
am.
that's fine.
Leo, okay, good. All right, so then, you know, Bob, Mark, and I will work in the next 2 weeks. We'll work on getting some pricing and, you know, we'll firm up some numbers in that respect for the budget, okay?
My
Good.
suggestion would be when you put numbers in on the 2021, 2022 budget,
Yeah.
to basically use what we had spent last year. I'd probably push everything up 3%, and then pick the top 2 items. So I think it's the Kubota and replacing driveway,
Mm-hmm.
and come back with list pricing. Don't try and farm out for, you know, possible bid numbers and stuff like that. I'd put it in right now for the first round of budget at list.
List price, yeah.
Definitely.
Easier to come in high and go lower than to go
Yep.
low and want to go higher.
Right.
Exactly, and you know, you miss something, or there's an attachment that would, you know, make life easier that we
Sure.
also are missing by $500.
Exactly.
And yeah, all commodities are set at right now. You know, I'm responsible for the budget, so I put all commodities at 3.5% because that is where the earmark is looking like right now. So, I mean, if you guys want to put the cemetery at 3, that's fine. But best practices is saying 3.5 this year.
Okay,
Okay,
so you don't need a motion from us or anything. We're just gonna go ahead with,
Yep.
you let us know what day
Right.
in February, and it'll be another Zoom meeting.
It'll be another Zoom meeting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we will not, I could have gave during COVID issues. I am not expecting to open to the public,
Meetings.
for public meetings, type of thing, until there's a high number of vaccinations out there. So, you know, really a phase 5A or B kind of thing. So I would expect all meetings, and, you know, the governor has pointed to everybody should continue to do meetings through all of 21 and going into 2022. So his crystal ball is better than mine.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Mark, you kind of gave your cemetery manager's report. Did you have anything else on that?
Yeah, I just got a couple other things that, 2 items that I didn't get on the agenda. One is I had a request from a company out in New York to partner with them to allow cameras in our cemetery. And what that is, which is really kind of bizarre after I saw this brochure, is this company in New York installs cameras in cemeteries for people so they can visit their grave whenever they want to. They're solar powered. Apparently every camera that we allow, we get a cut. I think it would be personally, I think it would be a disaster as far as potential damage. No maintenance on our part supposedly, but I said I would bring it up at our next meeting. We don't have anything in writing to prohibit it, but I don't know what you guys think. I was going to send Bob the email that she sent me and have it forwarded to you guys. You can take a look at it, but I don't know if it would work.
I think there's legal ramifications that goes with that.
Yeah, I don't know. She's very persistent. She calls about every 3 weeks to see where I'm at.
what do they mount a camera on a pole and make it internet accessible or what?
You know what, from it looks like, I mean, this thing is not on a pole. It's like a post or something that you would put into the ground that has an arm that comes over the top of the monument with the camera. It's not hidden by any means. I mean, it's very visible. Seeing a camera, it'd be like putting a spotlight on your headstone. This is primarily for above, for raised monuments. And that's what this little brochure she sent me looked like.
What, so
just sit
it
there-
would be like one camera per grave?
Per grave,
Oh,
individually. You buy them as a,
oh, okay.
the
No.
family would subscribe to this or whatever, and I
It'd
don't
be
know who
like a ring
installed-
doorbell for your grave.
Be like a
Yeah,
ring doorbell for your grave, yes. So I
I moved to
honestly
table
don't
that
see any.
idea till 2025.
Okay,
There you go.
that's perfect.
I second.
all right.
Okay.
Uh,
Then one other thing that I haven't talked about for a couple of years is the possibility or any interest on the township level to accept debit or credit cards at the cemetery. We have several families. I don't know if it's I think obviously it's a financial thing a lot of times. They come in, buy a grave, and just reach in their pocket and pull out their credit or debit card. I don't know if they're looking for the points. Some people, I think, as far as a debit card goes, is just a means of payment. And on the small end of it is wreath purchases around Christmas time that a lot of people, they just, come in and whip out their debit card thinking that we take it. And sometimes they don't have the cash. I just tell them to mail us a check, and that's how we've been functioning. As far as cost, there's the only cost to us would be the fees, and that all depends. It's anywhere from 2.25% to what was the high side? 2.65% if you swipe the card and in the presence of the person, like through the Apple Square, and then if you manually keyed it, like if you took a phone order, they charge 3.4%. Just an example on a out of town grave purchase of $1,650 and a $700 opening at 3.4%, it would cost the township $79 in fees. This is something that we could try. There's no charge to get this the Square device. We could charge a fee like some places do. If you do put it on your debit or credit, it's, we're going to charge a convenience fee, or we haven't lost a sale because we don't take a credit card or a debit card. It's more of an inconvenience to the people. I mean, most people don't probably have the money readily available when you're walking the door to bury one person for $2,300 or $2,400. And if that would help them, they would probably even do it with a fee. I don't know that, but
the only thing, Mark, is we couldn't use Square. Square is not a PCI compliant approved. We would probably go through the bank that the township uses
and
and
have a terminal, set up a terminal.
and have their setup. Because I mean, and then you are looking at probably a 3.5%. And I think you're right. Unfortunately, in the last 3 months, I've had to help purchase a grave, and we did it by credit card, and they actually charged us a 5% convenience fee, and we paid it. Now that was in Chicago and in Cook County, but we would just have to pass that convenience fee on to the people.
Just something for consideration. And we've had a lot of, I'm not saying people don't come in and request it, that we start taking them. We just see when the amount of people that just assume we're going to take it, and we got to tell them to go to the ATM, go to the bank. whatever the case may be. And it's just a inconvenience for them. But I think if we did accept it with a charge, either go to the bank and come back and no fee, or swipe your card and add a convenience fee.
Well, quite honestly, from everything that I've been reading, I think we're not that far away from becoming virtually a cashless society. And it's more and more common now. I mean, people are running around with plastic, and that plastic is going to change in its function. It's going to become blockchain oriented instead of the chip. Now the credit card companies are going to develop credit cards with blockchain in them, and are we going to start accepting crypto?
Yeah.
It's getting to that point though, but I think we should definitely probably consider doing something, because it's going to be more and more common. And millennials are getting older, and they're going to be dealing with these issues of burials and, costs that are involved. And they're, well, here,
Yeah.
I'll pay, what do I, here's my Apple card,
Yeah.
And I think it's inevitable. It's not
It
going to
could
happen next month.
it could possibly increase sales too. I mean, a lot of people, are struggling for that first grave. We hold the
Right.
second one for them. I mean, if we took a credit card, they may pay for both graves in the same visit instead of making payments for the next 6 months.
Right.
And the columbarium too. I mean, they,
And the columbarium too.
and they can feather out the payments to the credit card company, and we're taken care of, and it's legitimate to charge a fee for that, a convenience fee. And I think most people generally understand that, because we can't just either that, or it's not fair to increase the
Increase
cost
the cost because of it.
3.5% across the board. That isn't fair either. So I think a separate convenience fee, if you want to take your cell phone and do whatever you have to do to make the payment on the cell phone or a credit card and swipe it or whatever, and then it's done.
Good.
So I don't know what we need to happen to put us into that mode, but I think
I'll have
that
Trish
would
and
be a
Bob check with our
positive step.
bank and find out what's involved. At least then maybe when we have our special meeting, or at least the April meeting, we can proceed if
Does that increase
If we
anything
need to
on
wait.
your end from paperwork and a paper chase and documentation wise?
I mean, it shouldn't. It would just be a payment method that, like I said, we just got to get the thing set up with the township, but it won't affect us. I mean, whether I take cash, check, money order, it would just be an additional form of payment.
Yeah, it would probably be less runs for Bob and I to the bank. I will set up a meeting with the township banker to figure out an entry, to start out with an entry level. I do know the entry level allows for credit card, and then Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, where you just put your phone down right on it. It would, and then it would just, probably be a secondary terminal, or, a terminal, if you will, in the office.
Okay.
So I will, before either the February meeting or April meeting, I will have full information, and what the pricing would cost, because for all I know, there might be specific government pricing, so the service fee for government entities
Might be better
right?
or worse.
Let's hope not worse.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I just have one other, just something to think about. long range, capital expense, we need to look at doing something along Route 25 in our cemetery, especially the baby section and the cremation section. Along the cremation section, we do have some bushes. It's the last cremation grave I sold. I know the people were very disappointed. I pretty much made the arrangements on the telephone with them to come out and so they could physically see the grave. They just kind of all stood there with their mouth open and want to know this is the only option. And you know, as traffic is whizzing by, I don't know if a fence, taller bushes, some trees. It's even worse over by the baby section that we created the baby section, I guess. There's just nothing between standing at those graves and the highway. I mean, other than grass, but the just atmosphere, it's just lacking. And we need to, I think we need to consider doing something. Ideally, it wouldn't cut down on, you know, the noise, it might be a little more visual, but you know, you've seen a lot of cemeteries with the old Gothic type wrought iron vertical fencing. I know it'd be very expensive. Chain link, I'm not a lover of that, but with the colored vinyls today, with the greens and the blacks and stuff, it wouldn't be like a rusty chain link fence that we have over at the West Dundee Cemetery. But we have nothing, just nothing to break up the atmosphere, the appearance along the highway, and I'd like to consider to do something there.
I'd like to interject. We do have a $1.5 million capital project allotment from the state of Illinois. It is still in play. Let's look at a couple different options. The big board would have to approve it. It has, and anything that I present to the state to get the money has to be shovel ready, meaning we have to have it approved and ready to go. But let's look at a couple different options and request the board to use some of that $1.5 million.
That'd be awesome.
I think that would be, you know, that would be definitely within play as far as a capital improvement for the township. Bob, do you agree?
Yeah, if we can get it through Springfield.
Yeah, well, getting it through Springfield's not the hardest part. You know, it's just, we have to have all of whatever engineering and everything. It's getting it through the big board, I think, to make an agreement on it. So you know, if this board wanted to do a recommendation for it, I would present it to the big board.
I would say let's make that recommendation.
Okay. All right. So then, Mark, you and I will work on what we think might be a good facade. Let's call it a facade improvement.
Yes.
And we'll have it for the February or April meeting to discuss.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was you, Dave, that said that's good?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
good.
excellent.
And Leo, you agree with that?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Mark.
And then just the last thing, besides the improvements up front, something that we're gonna have to consider in the future unless the developer behind our cemetery does something. As they're developing, there's another new building which is right behind the tree line, you know, section 12. There used to be a fence. I don't know if it was the cemetery fence or if it was on whoever owned that property before. It was just some type of a wire fence. For security purposes, I don't know what is going to be developed out back. And if that's something that would come with the development, if they even care, or if something we may have to consider in the future And that obviously would be like a chain link fence. We've had no issues yet. There's nothing back there yet. There's a new building that is in a raw state, empty. I mean, it's going to be some type of a truck repair facility, but that's just something for consideration in the future. That'd be more of a security thing.
Well, why don't we look at combining that with the other fence
Yeah.
or the beautification thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do it together.
let's do it. Let's do a joint thing.
Okay. Yeah, and if we could use that grant money for this project, that would be a biggie. I know it's going to get tougher and tougher. The township referendum that failed last fall.
Right.
Obviously, we're not going to see any new money, and I'm not just all gung ho to get rid of it. Well, we got a few bucks, but there's not enough money to do what we want to do right now anyway. But it's an opportunity that
Yeah,
some of these things should have been done years ago when we probably had a little bit more money in preparation of today. A lot of things are just hitting right now with security issues and just these other things we've been discussing all night. So.
and it's not going to be all $1.5 million. I can tell you.
No.
On the board, yeah, but still, yeah. Let's
anything we can do.
Yeah.
Going back a half step, how big is the easement from the street to our plots?
There's only about 6 feet, at least at the south end of the cemetery, down towards Route 25 or down towards Route 72. We're only about 6 feet off of the curb, but then I think it gets a little bit further as we get towards the main entrance. We're probably I don't know, 15 to 20 feet maybe.
Yeah, but is that all utility easement? Can we actually put anything there?
Well, I mean, it's not. I don't know if it's a utility easement. I mean, it's our property line because when the state, every time they do a project, they stake the lot lines for the state. So I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's outside of the utility easement.
But I wouldn't put this on the property line anyway. But we need to put this where, 6 feet off the last row of graves, which would put it further off of the.
Off the property.
Further away from the highway. So if there is an easement through there, I mean, it would probably still be maintained without, our fence would not interfere with that, I don't believe.
Is that the area that the car came flying through?
Yes. In fact, well, where it probably, the way that car came through, the guy he really had one wheel on the highway and one wheel into the cemetery. So he was only about 5 feet in. And then where he veered off into our bushes, and he took out 14 bushes. If there was a fence there, that fence would have been gone.
But it also would not have stopped him.
There was nothing to stop until he hit those bushes.
Right.
So, I mean, it may have, especially if it was something, obviously a steel type structure, even if it was, 4x4 or 4x6 posts, that probably would have stopped them a lot sooner.
Okay.
It would have got his attention.
Yeah, definitely. So.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to stop out, I'll give you a Kubota ride and just show you what we're talking about, the lack of any type of privacy or barrier. You just feel like you're burying somebody right on the highway.
Yeah, when it hits 50 degrees again.
Yeah, okay.
They're not coming out in the winter, Mark, is what I'm hearing.
Okay. I can wait.
All right.
That's all I have. I basically, under my report, I mean, I did everything.
Okay. And with that, I will then ask for an adjournment. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Final roll call of the night. Trustee Bartlett,
Yep.
Trustee Bernardi,
Aye.
and Trustee Gullickson.
Aye.
Seeing 3 ayes, we will close this meeting out. I am going to stop the recording